Tej Kohli, describe what you're seeing in the world right now. What's working and what's not working, in your opinion?
So we have geopolitical macro risks, which we are all aware of. Of course, Brexit is one of them, since we are here in England, so I have to mention that. But there are even larger issues on that. And there are essentially four problems that this world faces. Any one of them would create the type of populism, nationalism, and other types of problems we have. But the four general problems we have, the first one, of course, is automation, which we are part of. This is displacing a lot of jobs, and it's causing some havoc. While in the long run, it's definitely a positive. In the short term, it's causing some problems. The wage stagnation, the gap between the rich and not so rich is becoming wider, which is a big problem in the world. And I think automation has had a big role in this, and it's starting, so it's going to become worse before it gets much better, and it will get much better. Second problem we have in the world is a good thing, but it's again affecting us adversely, is globalization. Now, globalization for people like me and many others who have, operations all over the world is a good thing, and in the long run, definitely it will help us. If the whole world is together, it's becoming closer, shorter, and easier to communicate with for all the great devices we have. Almost 1 trillion Internet of Things. This is not a joke, what we are going through. But in the short term, it is having a very strong negative effect for the not so fortunate. And this poses a problem in the short run, and therefore also gives rise to, both on the left and the right, nationalism, populism, things that we are fighting with, and Brexit, I think, is a result of that. Mr. Donald Trump being elected is a result of that. And the strong men coming in like Mr. Orban, Viktor Orban, Richard Duterte, I can go on and on. This is a result of this, globalization and automation. Then the third problem we have, which I consider the biggest of these four problems, is aging population. We call it demographics. That is happening in Japan. It's been going on for many years now, and despite the fact that they are one of the most innovative countries in the world, they have not progressed very much, and because they're fighting aging population, and their immigration policies are not so accommodating, and therefore a lot of baby boomers or older people are there, and younger people are not as many as they should have. And they face this problem for the last 25, 30 years. We have seen a result of what that does to the economy. I think we are seeing similar things now in Europe, all over, and even in North America it's beginning to happen now. So to those who say immigration is something that has to be curtailed, I just say look at your demographic issues before you come to the conclusion. And then to these three problems you add the fourth problem. This world now, all the economies together have 250 trillion, with a T, $1 trillion debt that we are living off. So any one of these problems would be a major issue and would create the havoc that we are seeing now. But having said all that, I remain generally very optimistic about the world. We have innate qualities, abilities to fight these forces. We historically have overcome it. I think we will. But short term, I think we have a few issues where we have to overcome.
What's the case for globalization when it comes to solving some of the world's biggest public health and humanitarian challenges?
It's exchange of information. I mean, whether you call it big data, you call it whatever you want. If there's exchange of information and much faster computing, which we have, our computers are millions, if not many times faster than it used to be. This type of computation and this type of exchange of information is very good for curing, for health issues, for curing ailments, for curing diseases. So there's a lot of great things happening. Now, the information needs to be shared in a globalized way that you're talking about. And I think that is being done. It's just a matter of time where people will live even longer than we do. 70, 80 is a norm. It used to be 50, 60. I have often said, I'm quoted all the time, that both my kids, who are quite young, they'll live up to 125 years or thereabouts. And this is just a matter, it's happening. It's all happening now, and some very clever people are involved in this.
What have been the most memorable experiences and biggest insights for you during the last decade of the Tej Kohli Foundation?
Well, it's seeing these hundreds of people, if not thousands, that we have been able to help see. I mean, if you see a blind person, and because of what you did, or because of part of what you did, I don't do the surgeries, the surgeons do. They can see now, and their life changes, lives around them changes. So it's very gratifying to see that. But what's frustrating is that we haven't done enough. I think it's like the Schindler's List. If you know the movie, we want more and more people to be able. We want more and more people to be cured of this terrible disease. So a lot of work needs to be done. But it's gratifying to see what happens to people who can see when they couldn't have seen otherwise. So that, to me, from a foundation standpoint, that is the most satisfying.
You talk a lot about the promise of technologies such as artificial intelligence and robotics to create a better world, but those technologies are also replacing jobs for poorer people. How does that reconcile with your vision?
So it is a problem. And as I've said to you, there is no way to take it back. That's the path we're headed for, and if I may say so, on balance, it's a very positive thing. But it is creating some pain in the short term. The inequality and between the wages of the very rich and not so rich is increasing, which is not a good thing. It's leading to all this nationalism and populism, which is creating other problems. All that I can say is that automation, robotics, artificial intelligence is upon us, and we have to deal with it. We have to accept it. It will make lives better. Poverty will end as a result of that. I'm very confident of that. But will it create some short-term pains? Yes, and it is creating some havoc right now. I would say if I had to choose between not having it and having it, it's a much better thing to have it for mankind in general. It'll help us in the future.
You've said before that rather than just giving money, you favour a form of venture philanthropy. How is the Tej Kohli Foundation about more than just giving money?
Because we are trying to find technical solutions to the problems. Artificial intelligence is one way to do it. In this, in my foundation and TKCI, we're looking for scientific solutions, as we have talked about. I think we are more on that side of the thing. Now, if you look at some famous philanthropists who we admire and look up to, Bill and Melinda Gates, of course, the best of the best, they are going into conventional philanthropy. There's one person we admire greatly, I think we all know him, Jeff Bezos, the richest man in the world today. He has not done much in terms of philanthropy, but I think he will come up with something. This is my own feeling, I can't be sure. I don't know him, but knowing how he has done things, he would be the ultimate epitome of doing things what I'm trying to do in a smaller way, in trying to help people through some technical innovation which helps human beings or disadvantaged human beings. I certainly hope so. He's one of the few people who has the money, who has the ability, who has a track record, and who's basically a very good person. So the fact that he hasn't embarked upon this technological solutions, or he hasn't embarked upon conventional philanthropy, which Bill, Melinda, Warren Buffett, Mark Zuckerberg, and the list goes on, they all are doing, makes me, wonder what he's up to. He's going to come up with something, and we can't wait to see what it is. So we are in the, I'm trying to bring technology into the thing to solve problems. It's easier said than done. I think Jeff Bezos might teach us how to do it.
You've met a lot of the world's business and political leaders. Which ones have inspired you the most?
Well, that's a tough question. I've had the rare privilege of meeting many. I would say Kofi Annan. If I had to pick one, he died recently. I went to meet him a few times in Geneva, where he had his head office after he had finished with his being a Secretary General. He always inspired me. He was probably one of the most effective. He was General Secretary for 2 terms of the United Nations. And I had the good fortune of meeting him a couple of times. And his outlook to world is really something that, and he's done a lot for this world. He was the most effective. There are some others, Bhutto Bhuttos Gales I liked, Ban Ki-moon recently, and now we have Mr. Guterres, who's poor guy is trying to do his best, but with these strong men as heads of states, it's kind of difficult. But I was really inspired by Kofi Annan.
There's nearly 8 billion people on the planet now. Can the philanthropy of individuals really have a meaningful impact?
Well, let's talk about what we have achieved so far. In order to answer that question, just Bill and Melinda Gates, the Gates Foundation, has eradicated polio from this world, one of the worst diseases this mankind has ever faced. Just on their own. It's only very small percentage remains. 99.9% is gone from what I understand. They've also almost cured malaria, cholera, typhoid, 80-90%, whatever the percentages are, very high. They put a big dent into HIV. This is just one couple. And this is by giving, doing a lot of things, hands-on technology, which is what I believe. I don't believe in giving money to people and causes which I don't know how they're going to be used. Surely we can do better than what we have done if just one couple has managed to do so much. Yes, granted, they're not just any couple. Bill Gates for many years was the richest man in the world, and he had a wife, and they got together and have ended so many problems. If more of us got involved, I think we could end a lot of the problems, and especially with the technology we have at our disposal now. Wendy and I certainly are trying to do much smaller versions of that, and if I think more people join us in this fray, it's just a matter of time where we can end the obvious suffering of people. Suffering will always be there, but not in the ways as we know it. I hope so.